August 1st marks the first day of Ramadan for the year 2011, and Ramadan is the holiest month of the year for Muslims. It's a month of fasting. Now, one of the great misunderstandings amongst non-Muslims is that the God of Islam is a God of power and of might and of conquest. And so where do you find the God of Islam? In the powerful, in the mighty, in those who conquer other people. The month of Ramadan is a way of correcting this misunderstanding that many non-Muslims have. The month of Ramadan is a month of fasting. It's a month of identifying oneself with the poor, the weak, the marginalized, the hungry. And why is this so important? This is a radical message during Muhammad's time. For you see, Muhammad came into a world that's known as pre-Islamic Arabia. And this age is known amongst Muslims as the Jahaliyya, or the age of ignorance. What were the pre-Islamic Arabians ignorant about? Well, they were ignorant about the way that God works in the world. See, pre-Islamic Arabians thought that fate was in charge of our position in life. So if you were rich, it was because of fate. If you were poor, it was because of fate. And so the rich had very little incentive to help the poor because fate was in charge of everything. And why go against fate? Well, Muhammad goes on a spiritual retreat in Mount Hira, and he comes in contact with the angel Gabriel, who delivers the Quran to Muhammad. The Quran is very concerned about the poor. The word of God here for Muslims is very concerned about the poor, the hungry, the weak, the marginalized of culture. And it says you must care for them. You must feed those who are hungry. You must give money to them and make sure that they have enough resources to care for themselves. And the first time that the angel Gabriel comes to Muhammad, it marks the first day of Ramadan. Ramadan is a message that God cares about the poor, the marginalized, the weak of culture. Now, when Muhammad gives this message to the powerful Quraysh, the power tribe of Arabia during this time, they turn against him. This is his own tribe. Muhammad is a member of the Quraysh, and the Quraysh turn against him because they don't want to hear this message that they have to care for the poor. They don't want to hear this because they think fate has been on their side, and so they should be able to keep their power and their money. Muhammad says no, God cares about the poor, and so should we. Well, there's this one passage in the Quran, chapter 80, where Muhammad goes to a few members of the Quraysh in order to try to seek some help. And here, a blind poor man comes up to Muhammad while he's doing this and starts asking him questions. And Muhammad ignores this blind poor man. And the Quran rebukes Muhammad for ignoring him. See, it's as if the Quran is telling Muhammad, caring for the poor is even more important than finding your own security. This is what the Quran is telling Muhammad. This is how important it is to care for our fellow human beings. And the whole month of Ramadan is reminding us that God cares for the poor, the weak, the marginalized, those who are hungry. And it says, identify with them, fast, so that you can identify with the poor. And during this time, it wasn't about whether the poor were Muslim or non-Muslim. They were just poor, and you care for them. It doesn't matter if they're Muslim or non-Muslim. So this is the message of Ramadan and the message of the Quran. And I think it's not only a critique of pre-Islamic Arabia, but it's a critique of much of our modern world as well. Whenever we turn away from the poor and the weak and the marginalized, there is Ramadan, there is the Quran, to critique that practice. So those are my thoughts on Ramadan and the Quran, and I would love to hear what you think. Thanks.